you can see the submandibular gland, it is a mixed type of the gland. Okay, it's a mixed type of a gland, and it means that it is going to produce the secretions like both serous and the mucous secretions both, right? So it's a large salivary gland, although it is smaller than the parotid, right? So rather you can see it's medium sized, right? So it is just is of a size of walnut, right? It is just of a size of a walnut, and it is situated. So the location cavity, it is just going to be present over here. You can see in the anterior part of the digastric triangle, right? Now what is the digastric triangle? किसी को कोई idea है जी? Well, I am going to repeat it again. The submandibular gland is a mixed gland. It means it is going to produce both the serous and the mucous type of the secretions, right? And its size is about the size of a walnut. And you can see it is roughly J-shaped gland. इसकी shape आप देखिए. It is roughly J-shaped gland, right? And this J-shaped gland is indented by this muscle, right? And this muscle is called as the myeloid muscle. So it is being indented by the posterior border. This is anterior aspect. So it is the posterior border of the myeloid muscle is going to, indent this muscle from here, right? And that's why, and here it is, going to convert it into, divide it into two parts. The one is the largest superficial part, and the other one deeper to this muscle, that is the deep part, right? Okay, now this muscle is located, its location cavity, it is located in the digestive triangle. Here you can see. Digestive triangle is basically, किसी को idea है जी digestive triangle का? Digestive triangle is a part of the anterior triangle of the neck, right? If you have a side view of the neck, you can see a quadrilateral space, quadrilateral area extending from the, here, mastoid process. If you draw a line from the mastoid process, okay, up to the chin, here. This one, mastoid process is chin tak, upper boundary, and then the midline, right? And then below here we have this clavicle, right? Okay. Okay, so this quadrilateral space, and here you can see this is the anterior border of the trapezius muscle, right? This quadrilateral space, the side of the neck, it is going to divide into the two triangles by this sternocleidomastoid muscle. One which is anterior to this one, that is the anterior triangle, and one which is posterior to it, this is called as a posterior triangle. Here you can see this one, right? So anterior triangle is again divided by this, digastric muscle over here, the posterior valley of digastric, the anterior valley of digastric, and the superior valley of femoral muscle, right? It is going to divide again, and this midline here, they are going to divide it into the four smaller triangles, right? So this upper one, which is present just below the mandible, the base of the mandible here, right? And this small muscle, you can see this is the anterior belly of digastric, and this one is the posterior belly of digastric. So the superiorly, it is bounded by the base of the mandible here, right? Inferiorly by the anterior belly of digastric, and posterior inferiorly by the posterior belly of digastric. So this area, this triangle enclosed by these three boundaries, this is called as the digastric triangle. ठीक है बेटा? So this gland, you can see the gland lying over here. So this gland is going to lie in this, digastric triangle. Location पता चल गई कि problem तो नहीं है. Don't worry, we'll talk about the triangles in detail also. Just give you an idea that what is a digastric triangle. I just have to tell you all that, stuff. So this is a digastric triangle, and here this gland, you can see the submandibular gland is located over there. Is it clear, beta? कोई problem तो नहीं है? Okay. Okay, I have marked it somewhere else. Here you can see this one again, the triangle, the digastric triangle. And here you can see the submandibular gland lying in this triangle. Okay, so this gland, it is divided into the larger superficial part, right? And a deeper part ठीक है, by the muscle. कौन सा मसल था जी?
Myeloid.
Right. Okay, now we will talk about the superficial part, right? This superficial part, it is going to fill this digestive triangle. Here you can see, right? So basically the superficial part of the muscle that is lying in the digestive triangle, right? And it extends upwards deep to the mandible. ठीक है, इसकी यहाँ से हमने mandible remove कर दी है ना. So आप ये देखें कि इसकी जो surface, जो इसकी lateral surface है, it is in direct contact with the mandible, right? Right? Okay, just to show you know कि इसकी ये जो surface है, it is how it is just going to be related to this mandible. Now here you can see this is the medial surface of the mandible, right? This is the medial surface of the mandible, and here you can see this ridge, this line, right? This is called as the myeloid line, and here that muscle is attached, जिसके मैंने भी जिक्र किया आपसे, right? The myeloid muscle, right? The myeloid muscle यहाँ पे attached, and the superficial part जो है, it is lying here in this fossa below this myeloid line, right? This is called the submandibular fossa, right? So this myeloid line, it has got inferiorly, there is a fossa that is called the submandibular fossa. उसके यहाँ पे above, यहाँ पे anteriorly, इस जगह पे यहाँ पे एक और fossa that is called as a sublingual fossa. So this line is going to divide this space into the, you know, the medial surface into sublingual fossa and the sublingual fossa and the submandibular fossa. So it is lying, this superficial part of the gland, it is just lying in close relation to this submandibular fossa over here, up to the myeloid line, right? Is it clear? So this is the location of the gland over there. Okay, now this gland, it is also going to be enclosed by the fascia between the two layers of deep cervical fascia, right? And the superficial layer of the fascia, it covers the, you know, the gland, right? And it is going to be attached to the base of the mandible, right? Whereas the deep fascia, it covers medial surface, okay? So just as I told you before in the parotid gland, the superficial, that the cervical fascia is going to split into the two one, the superficial and deep lamina. Here again, this gland is also, you know, covered by the superficial layer and the deep fascia, deep lamina. The superficial lamina is going to cover the, you know, surface, and then is going to be attached with the base of the mandible, where the deeper one, it is going to cover deeper surface and is going to be attached over this myeloid line over here, right? So it means that the capsule of the submandibular gland is again going to place in that region. Okay, so we have got to talk about its relation now. If you have a look over the gland, it has got the three surfaces. One is inferior surface, and the other one is lateral surface, and the other one is a medial surface. Okay, it has got the three surfaces. I'm talking about the superficial part. This is superficial part. इसकी एक inferior surface है जी, इसकी एक lateral surface है, और इसकी एक medial surface है, which is towards the root of the tongue. ठीक है? This lateral surface I told you, it is towards the, it is is towards the, you know, mandible. It is lying against the mandible, whereas the medial surface, it is lying against the muscles which are forming the root of the tongue, right? Or the muscles of the tongue. We'll see. Okay, and then the inferior surface over here, you can see this in the over here, the inferior surface. So inferior surface में इसके relations क्या होंगे जी? कौन बताएगा जी inferior surface के relations? सबसे पहले we have got the skin in this region ना जी. Skin के बाद we have got the muscle, superficial muscle over here, that is called as the platysma. किसी को याद है जी? Okay, here you can see we have removed the skin over here. So सबसे पहले यहाँ पे inferior surface में we have got the skin. If you remove the skin, you will be coming across the superficial fascia, जहाँ पे आपको ये muscle नजर आ रहा है, superficial muscle, that is called the platysma. When you will remove the platysma, there will be the deep fascia here. You can see इसके नीचे deep fascia होगा, right? And I told you deep fascia जब यहाँ पे आएगा, it is going to split, right? And it's going to cover the, this is submandibular gland. तो इसको superficial इसको जो deep fascia cover करेगा इस inferior surface को, it's going to be attached over here. यहाँ से इसको cover करता हुआ इसका cover here, and is going to be attached to the base of the mandible, right जी? सो डी फेशिया, उसके अलावा स्ट्रक्चर्स कौन से इससे रिलेटेड होंगे जी? यस सीन बिफोर। नाउ ये देखें, ये सुपरफिशियल पार्ट है बेटे, तो इसकी इंफीरियर सरफेस पे कौन से दो स्ट्रक्चर्स आ रहे हैं? दिस वन, ये नर्व कौन सी आ रही थी जी? द नर्व इमर्जिंग फ्रॉम द एपेक्स ऑफ द सब पेरोटिड ग्लैंड, द
Cervical.
cervical branch of the facial nerve. Very good. This one is the cervical branch. So इसकी inferior surface से जो it's going to relate the inferior surface of the superficial part of the submandibular gland, right? The cervical branch of the facial nerve, right? Then इसके साथ ये vein भी आ रही है जी, this vein, small vein, इसके साथ running parallel, ये देख रहे हैं आप. I just show you somewhere else. I have this location. I just show you this vein. This location. Here there is a gland, right? And you can see this vein. This is a facial vein, right? So its inferior surface where it is the close relation with the inferior surface is this one, the cervical branch of the facial nerve and the facial vein over here, right? And of course, यहाँ पे I told you, यहाँ पे आपको submandibular glands पड़े होंगे जी. Here you can see the submandibular glands lying over there. Now you can see the superficial, the facial vein running along its inferior surface, and the glands, submandibular glands are located. So the inferior surface की जो relations हैं, we have got the skin, we've got the platysma, then the dysphagia, or dysphagia के बाद we have got the cervical branch of facial nerve, the facial vein, and then the submandibular lymph nodes. Inferior relations, inferior surface में कोई problem तो है, बता दीजिए. Inferior surface में कोई problem, sorry, उसके relations में कोई problem है तो बताएं. Okay, now we'll come to the lateral surface. तो मैंने आपको बताया था कि lateral surface में कौन से structures, lateral surface किसके opposite lie करती है जी इसकी?
Submandibular fossa on the left.
Here you can see the lateral surface of the gland is lying against the medial surface of the body of the mandible here. Below the myeloid line, right, there is a fossa that is called the submandibular fossa. So lateral surface इसकी यहाँ पे lie कर रही है. Is it clear जी? You will see the medial surface, and medial surface, it is lying so this is the place here, this one, right? And so medial surface, it is of course it is related to the, you see, myeloid muscle यहाँ से originate करके ऊपर mandible की तरफ आएगा, right here. So medially it is related with the myeloid, then this muscle that is called the hyoglossus muscle, and then the stylo, upper part of the lower fibers of the styloglossus muscle, right? And here inferiorly it is going to overlap the stylohyoid muscle and the posterior belly of digastric muscle, right? So this is the location. This is the location where the submandibular gland lies, right? So the submandibular gland, the medial surface, it is lying against the myeloid muscle, the hyoglossus muscle, the styloglossus muscle, and its deeper surface, its inferiorly, it's going to overlap the two other muscles over here, and these are the stylohyoid muscle and this smaller muscle, posterior belly of digastric, coming down along with the stylo. I told you before that these two muscles are running parallel to each other. Okay, stylohyoid and the posterior belly of digastric muscle, they are running closely in parallel to each other. So the medial surface. कोई problem है जी बेटे medial surface में? जी.
No.
Okay. So the deeper part I told you it is smaller in size. Okay. Here you can see this is the deeper part, and it is smaller in size. Okay. As you see, it's a J shape now. So the short limb of the J, it is formed by this deeper part, right? Smaller in size, and it lies deep to the, you see, this is a myeloid coming over here, and then it is running up. So it is lying deep to this myeloid muscle, right? Okay. So you can say that it is lying between the myeloid and the hyoglossus muscle. Okay. यहाँ पे ये माइलॉइड इसके पड़ा हुआ है यहाँ पे laterally, और इसके here you can see it is lying over here. So hyoglossus. So it is just lying, you can see it is lying superficial to the hyoglossus and deep to the malhide because it is pressed between these two muscles, right? तो प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है बच्चे, कॉन्सेप्ट डेवलप हुआ आपका यहाँ से. You can see
Yes, sir.
this deeper part, it is, you know, sandwiched basically between the myeloid and the hyoglossus, right? So myeloid is coming in its lateral aspect and hyoglossus on its medial aspect, right? Okay, and this gland, you see, if you trace it posteriorly, it is going to be continuous with the superficial part of the gland. Is it or not? Right? If you trace it posteriorly, it is going to be continuous with the superficial part of the gland around the posterior border of the myeloid muscle. Here you can see this one, right? And the deeper part, if you trace it anteriorly, it is extending up to the posterior part of the sublingual gland. This is sublingual gland, right? तो ये anteriorly extend कहाँ तक कर रहा है? Up to the posterior end of the sublingual gland तक extend कर रहा है. So when we talk about the relations of the gland, so laterally इसके क्या पड़ा होगा जी? Then laterally क्या होगा? I told you.
Mandible.
Myeloid बच्चे, this myeloid, I told you deeper part है ना? I told you that this deeper part, it is sandwiched between the myeloid muscle and the hyoglossus muscle, right? तो laterally इसके क्या पड़ा हुआ है? Myeloid है जो कि जाके attach हो रहा है कहाँ पे? Myeloid line over the mandible, which I will just show you before, ना? Here, myeloid muscle is attached over here, ठीक है? So myeloid muscle is lying superficial to that gland, ठीक है? And the other one, or it's present on the lateral aspect, whereas the hyoglossus is present on its medial aspect. Here you can see. Okay, right? Okay. And here you can see over here. If you just remove these two muscles, you can see. Now this is the location of what? This is the same location, जी. This is the location of the gland. So this gland is superficially क्या चीज run कर रही है जी? You can see this nerve. Sorry, superiorly. Superior to the gland, a nerve is running down over it. This is the lingual nerve. ठीक है? So deeper part का जो superior relation है, उसमें भी एक और the lingual nerve, and lingual nerve के साथ यहाँ पे there is again a, you know, ganglion is hanged by the two nerve roots, and this is called the submandibular gland. So submandibular ganglion, right? So in the superior relations, the deeper part, we have got the lingual nerve and the submandibular ganglion, right? And inferior to the ganglion, I told you this is the location of the ganglion, also of the submandibular gland, right? So inferiorly, you can see another nerve running downwards over here. This is called as the hypoglossal, right? So as far as the structures which are in relation with the deep part of the submandibular gland, तो उसके laterally क्या पड़ा होगा जी? The myeloid muscle, medially इसके hyoglossus muscle है, superiorly the lingual nerve along with the submandibular gland over there, so submandibular, you know, ganglion over there, and inferiorly इसके we have got the hypoglossal nerve running. The problem is the relations में. Any problem in the relations, बच्चे?
No, sir.
Sure.
No, sir.
Okay, जी. Here you can see again, this is a deeper part. I'm going to वहाँ पे आपको gland नजर नहीं आ रहा था, यहाँ पे gland के साथ superior relation नजर आ रहा है. You can see this is a deeper part of the gland, right? And its superior relation, you can see this lingual nerve running downwards towards the, you know, testation towards the tongue. And here you can see the submandibular ganglion over here, right? So superior relations of this deeper part, there's lingual nerve and the submandibular ganglion, right? उसके नीचे से यहाँ से below these muscles, a nerve is running, that is, and this is a hypoglossal nerve running around. ठीक है जी? Okay जी. Now we'll talk about the submandibular duct. Submandibular duct here you can see. जी बच्चे.
सर ये सुपीरियर पार्ट की ना लेटरल दोबारा एक दफा बता दें.
Laterally, बेटे, I told you कि ये आपको नजर आ रहा है, this muscle, myeloid muscle, right? दिस मसल इज रनिंग अप बेसिकली, ठीक है। यहाँ से ये कर्व करेगा और ये जाके मैंडिबल पे मीडियल सरफेस पे जाके अटैच हो जाएगा, राइट। सो इट इज गोइंग टू कवर दिस सरफेस, इसकी ये जो सरफेस है इसको ऐसे रैप करेगा, यहाँ से निकल है ना इसको, ठीक है।
यस सर।
ठीक है, ये इसको रैप करेगा यहाँ से, और रैप करता हुआ इट इज गोइंग टू बी टाइट होगा। ये मैंडिबल हमने काट दिया ना, ये रैप करता रहेगा और यहाँ पे आके मैंडिबल पे अटैच होगा, तो ये इस साइड को कवर कर लेगा। सो लेटरल सरफेस में आपका ये माइलोहेड मसल है जो कि इसको कवर कर रहा है। मैंने आपको बताया कि दिस डीपर पार्ट इज सैंडविच्ड बिटवीन द माइलोहेड मसल एंड हायोग्लॉसस मसल। इसके लेटरली यहाँ पे पड़ा हुआ है माइलोहेड और इसके मीडियली पड़ा हुआ है हायोग्लॉसस मसल। इज इट क्लियर?
ओके सर।
राइट। और स्पीयर इसके ये सबलिंगुअल नर्व है विद दी सबमैंडिबुलर गैंग्लियन, और इंफीरियरली यहाँ से इसके हाइपोग्लॉसल नर्व पास करती है, ठीक है। यहाँ से डीपर पार्ट ये इसके पीछे से पास करेगी डीपर, ठीक है। अगर हम इसको रिमूव करते हैं देन यू विल बी कमिंग अक्रॉस विद द, यू कैन सी, अभी हमने ग्लैंड रिमूव कर दिया है। नाउ यू कैन सी द हाइपोग्लॉसल मसल ऑन द मिडिल सरफेस ऑफ दिस ग्लैंड, okay, and if you remove the gland, so you can see the hypoglossal nerve here, ठीक है। gland has been removed। ये इसका superior relation नजर आ रहा है आपको, lingual nerve with the submandibular ganglion, और ये आपको inferior relation नजर आ रहा है, right? That is the hypoglossal nerve lying in close contact with the gland. Okay, now we'll talk about the submandibular duct। submandibular duct मैंने आपको यहाँ भी आपको नजर आ रही है, इसको भी देखते हैं। we'll talk ये it will be coming from the, कहाँ से आती है submandibular duct जी? It is coming from the deeper part, right? It is again a thin wall duct which comes from the deeper part of the gland. ये देखिए deeper part of the gland है और यहाँ से ये आ रही है, right? So this duct comes from the, it is also called as the submandibular duct of the Wharton's, ठीक है, or it is also called as the Wharton's duct. So this Wharton's duct is about 5 centimeter long and it is thin walled and it emerges at the anterior end of the deeper part, right? And then it runs forward on the, और ये देखें ये पार्ट कहाँ पे पड़ा हुआ था, इसके पीछे कौन सा मसल है? हायोग्लॉसस। So this nerve is running over the hyoglossus muscle, right? Here you can see hyoglossus muscle के ऊपर ये इसके ये बेस में आपको hyoglossus muscle नजर आ रहा है, right? और यहाँ से it is running over the hyoglossus muscle, right? And between the, एक मिनट just show you. ये देखिए ये हायोग्लॉसस मसल पे रन करती हुई आ रही है यहाँ से, तो यहाँ पे ये दोनों नर्व्स के दरमियान में, ये लिंगुअल नर्व है और ये हाइपोग्लॉसल है, इन दोनों के दरमियान से रन करते हुए हायोग्लॉसस पे ये यहाँ पे आएगी एंड व्हेन इट विल रीच एट द एंटीरियर पार्ट ऑफ द हायोग्लॉसस मसल, ठीक है, इट इज क्रॉस्ड बाय द नर्व लिंगुअल नर्व। आप ये देख रहे हैं बेटा, ये डक्ट जा रही है, राइट? ये लिंगुअल नर्व जो है इट इज गोइंग टू क्रॉस द submandibular duct at the anterior border. यहाँ से we have got this hyoglossus muscle, right? So at the anterior border of this hyoglossus muscle, this duct it is crossed obliquely by the lingual nerve. ठीक है जी? And then it runs forward and is going to open into the floor of the mouth. और floor of the mouth में कहाँ जाके open करती है जी? जी कौन बताएगा? ये देखिए, it runs forward up to the floor of the mouth. Floor of the mouth में कहाँ open करती है? ये क्या जगह जी है? This one. What is this? किसी को याद है जी?
Vestibule.
On both sides of frenulum. On both sides of frenulum there is a, ये frenulum of the tongue की both sides we got what? Sublingual papilla or the sublingual furuncle here. और यहाँ पे ये देखिए ये duct आ रही है, is running from the anterior part of the deep gland, runs over here over the hypoglossus muscle, ठीक है, and then it is crossed by this lingual nerve at the anterior part of hypoglossus, and then it runs forward into the floor of the mouth, and it reaches just below the tongue on the medial aspect of this frenulum, lateral aspect of frenulum, and going to open into the sublingual papilla or the furuncle. on both sides of the AP. Is it clear, Ji? What would be the blood supply, Ji? Blood supply क्या होगी? Sublingual. Sublingual के relations में देख रहे यार. It will be supplied by the facial artery, बच्चे. ठीक है? You can see the facial artery down over here. Facial artery यहाँ से निकली है. It is going to be well. ये तो इसका lingual artery branch दे रही है, right? So the facial artery is going to supply this one, and of course the vein that will be the common facial vein. और lymph कौन से होंगे जी? Lymphatics कहाँ से drain करेगी इसकी?
Sublingual.
That is submandibular lymph nodes, right? Submandibular lymph nodes. हमने पढ़े थे ना जी relations में. ठीक है? Inferior surface में यहाँ पे lymph nodes पड़े हुए थे. These are the submandibular lymph nodes, right? And it will be supplied by the branches from the lingual nerve via this, submandibular ganglion, right? Is it clear, जी? और इसमें भी कौन-कौन से fibers आएंगे जी? Gland है ना? तो gland में कौन-कौन से fibers मैंने बताए थे आपको parotid में? There are 3 types of the fibers coming down over here: the secretomotor fibers, the vasomotor fibers, and the sensory fibers. Is it or not? So इसका secretomotor fibers, you can see they are passing over here again via the lingual nerves. Lingual nerve is carrying, I told you, it must be carrying the 2 types of the fibers, the sensory fibers and also the secretomotor fibers, right? And the vasomotor fibers कहाँ से आएंगे जी? कैसे आएंगे? In any way, मैंने भी आपको बताया कि the sympathetic fibers or the vasomotor fibers, how they travel to the gland. जी कौन बताएगा? बदर नवाज, जी फारिया काजी. How the sympathetic fibers will travel to the gland, जी? फारिया.
cervical ganglion.
Cervical ganglion से आएंगे. I'm asking you, बेटे, how they are traveling. कैसे ग्लैंड में कैसे दाखिल होंगे? बेटे, remember, I have told you so many times that the sympathetic vasomotor fibers, they are always traveling with the blood vessels supplying that particular structure. ठीक है? किसी भी structure के sympathetic fibers body में mostly they are going to travel along with the blood vessel. Sympathetic fibers, they are going to make a plexus around the vessel, and via the vessel they are going to supply the region, right? Or submandibular gland में the sympathetic fibers will travel with the facial artery.
Facial artery.
ठीक है? ये आप याद रखिएगा. ये especially when we will be talking about the gastrointestinal system, no, in the abdomen or the pelvis, no. तो इसमें I will tell you that how these plexuses are formed in the abdomen. ठीक है? Well, over here you can see the fibers traveling, coming from the sympathetic chain. They travel towards the, of course, the external carotid artery. The external carotid artery की जो branches हैं उनके साथ there are the offshoots of these plexuses, and they are running along with the branches, and through the branches they are going towards the organs. Is it clear? Okay. Now we'll talk about the sublingual gland, the smaller gland, right? It's a mucus gland, right? We talked about 3 glands. Parotid gland is submandibular and the sublingual. Parotid कौन से, which type of the gland was the parotid? Parotid secretion कौन सी होती है? It's going to give the serous secretion, right? Submandibular is a mixed gland. It has got the serous and the mucus both. Whereas the sublingual, it is a smaller gland, smallest of the 3 salivary glands, and it is going to give the mucus secretions, right? And it is just of a shape of an almond. ये almond shape होता है, just like an almond, right? And it weighs about just 3 to 4 grams. and this muscle, it lies above the myeloid muscle. You can see this myeloid muscle, just myeloid muscle के ऊपर पड़ा हुआ है, ठीक है? और it's lying below the, इसकी लोकेशन क्या है जी? It lies just below the
Floor of the mouth.
mucosa of the floor of the mouth, right? So इसकी लोकेशन देखिए, it lies just below the floor of the mouth here. और ये क्या जगह, ये क्या चीज है जी? हमने इस जगह को एक नाम दिया था जी. Sublingual area में we had talked about the frenulum of the tongue, we talked about the sublingual truncal and then the sublingual fold which overlies the sublingual gland. आप भूल गए अभी सब लोग? So we have got superiorly, it is in relation with the floor of the mouth or the mucous membrane, just like covering the mucosal fold covering the sublingual gland, and below there is a myeloid muscle. और मिडिली क्या होगा जिसके, और rather you can say कि इसके lateral relation में क्या होगा जी? इसके lateral relations में क्या होगा? Lateral relation of submandibular gland में क्या था जी? जी, anybody? Try करें शाबाश बेटा.
वो सबमैंडिबुलर फोसा
Mandible होता है.
मैंडिबल कौन सी सरफेस है मैंडिबल की बेटे?
Submandibular Fossa.
ये देखिए बेटा, I told you
medial surface, mandible.
मीडियल सरफेस ऑफ द मैंडिबल पे मैंने आपको बताया था बेटा, ठीक है? आप लोगों ने मैंडिबल नहीं पढ़ी, बट मैंने आपको बता दिया है. जस्ट शो यू हियर, this is the medial surface of the body of the mandible, and it is marked by a sharp ridge that is called as the myeloid line over there. On just inferior to that myeloid line, there is a fossa depression that is called a submandibular fossa, right? And just above and anterior to this over here, there is another depression, or and this is a sublingual fossa. So submandibular gland is lying in this fossa, and the sublingual is gland lying over here. So the lateral relation of this sublingual gland, क्या आएगा? This surface, this fossa of the, on the medial surface of this mandible, the sublingual fossa. ठीक है? ठीक है? Is it clear?
ठीक है.
Okay. And laterally इसके क्या पड़ा होगा जी? Laterally तो ये होगा, तो इसके medially क्या पड़ा होगा? ग्लैंड किसके ऊपर लाई कर रहा है?
Submandibular.
Myeloid.
This is the location of the submandibular gland, right? And this is the location of the sublingual gland. ये यहाँ पे पड़ा ना sublingual gland. This is the floor of the mouth. ये टंग आपको नजर आ रही है, right? यहाँ पे पड़ा हुआ. तो ये इसके ये जो स्ट्रक्चर पड़ा, this is a muscle that is called the genioglossus muscle बच्चे, ठीक है? Genioglossus muscle पढ़ा था ना, genioglossus coming from the superior genial tubercle and they are going towards the merge with the muscles over here, ठीक है ना? Root of the tongue muscles में जाके. So this is a major muscle, right? This is the genioglossus muscle, right? So this is the locations, right? So medially इसके genioglossus पड़ा हुआ है. Laterally there is a sublingual fossa of the mandible. Superiorly the mucous membrane covering the floor of the mouth, and inferiorly इसके ये myeloid muscle पड़ा हुआ है. Is it clear? ठीक है जी? ये प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है बच्चे? Okay. Now here you can see this gland. Okay. Now this gland, it is going to give about 10 to 15 ducts, right? Which are going to directly open into the floor of the mouth. You can see, मैंने आपको बताया था ना sublingual fold के ऊपर, there you can see these multiple small openings, and these are the openings of the ducts. You can see the ducts of the glands coming out of the gland, and they're going to open directly into the floor of the mouth. You can see. right? So these 10 to 15 ducts, they are going to open directly into the frozen mouth of the tongue, okay? Right? These are going to open where? These are going to open into the sublingual fold, the summit of the sublingual fold. And few of them, they might join the, here with the submandibular duct. Well, तो blood supply इसकी क्या होगी जी? Blood supply यहाँ पे इसकी, या कौन सी artery आ रही है जी? This one. Sublingual artery, right? Sublingual artery. Or sublingual artery की जो branch है, that's the submental artery which is going to in this region, right? Submental branch of the sublingual artery is going to supply, right? And nerve supply again is coming same as from the submandibular. वो कौन सी थी? That is a lingual. Is it clear जी? कोई problem तो नहीं है बच्चे? So lingual nerve, it is going to supply the both submandibular and the lingual glands. Again, all type of the fibers, phytomotor fibers, and the sensory fibers coming from the lingual nerve, and the vasomotor fibers are traveling along with this artery. That is a branch, submental artery, which is a branch of the sublingual artery. And sublingual in turn is coming from the facial artery. Okay, ji. Is it clear, ji? So we have finished with the salivary glands. If problem है तो बेटा you can ask me. Any problem in these sublingual or submandibular gland or the pituitary gland? So here we have finished with the salivary glands, and then from next class we'll be starting with the anterior abdominal wall. आप लोग anterior abdominal wall पढ़ के आइएगा, ठीक है? Anterior abdominal wall में specifically we'll be talking about the the planes of the abdomen, how we are going to divide the abdomen into the 9 regions, okay? What are important structures which are present at the level of these planes? So salivary glands के बाद we are going to start a new region, basically the abdominal region. So we will start with the abdominal wall, and then we will talk about the abdomen in detail. तो बेटे आप साथ साथ पढ़ते रहेंगे तो आपको प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा, otherwise you will be facing a lot of problems. ठीक है जी?